Morning everybody, how are y'all doing today? I'm doing great because we just got some very interesting news about PlayStation. I'm sure you all have heard it by now because it's been literally everywhere over the past couple days. And the first bit of news actually comes from the former president of Sony himself. I'm probably gonna butcher this pronunciation, by the way. Shuhei Yoshida? Whatever, you all have probably heard of him. He was the president of Sony from 2008 to 2019. And he was interviewed recently by Greg Miller on Kinda Funny Games. And if you don't know who Greg Miller is, God, I wish I were you, because I just found out recently, and I think this clip should summarize it.
What you need is people to get their shit figured out and get Dragon Age Inquisition working on a Steam Deck. Tell all your PC friends about this, Greg.
Hey, PC friends who haven't been caught and put in jail yet for being pedophiles, I would really love it if you would help Andy by modding this. I know you love your mods. I know you. The developers, they had a vision and they made a game, but you say, fuck that. I'd like to put this cube in it that breaks everything. If you could help Dragon Age Inquisition get running before Chris Hansen and the FBI break down your door, that'd be great.
Yeah, this dude is not the biggest fan of PC gamers. I mean, you could even see one of the guys on the panel with him facepalm and he was like, oh my god. And I know people are gonna say, oh, well, it's just a joke or whatever. First of all, he sounded very serious when he said that. Second of all, that was a joke in the same way that Synthetic Man being racist is a joke, aka it is not. But yeah, Greg Miller, not a huge fan of PC guys, which is actually really funny considering what Yoshida said during this interview, because he basically confirmed that PlayStation relies on PC ports and remasters of games to be able to have the money to make new games, which is absolutely hilarious, because the narrative from so many PlayStation fanboys for so long was, oh, we buy games, people on PC don't buy games, Xbox gamers don't buy games, yada yada yada. But now the ex-president of Sony has officially come out and said himself that PlayStation doesn't make enough money from the initial sales of games on PlayStation, so they have to do PC ports and remasters of very recently released games just to make up the money. I mean, if you don't believe me here, just take a look at the clip yourself.
Like big single player games now cost so much, so they need additional income by doing remasters and porting to PC.
Which just, how absolutely hilarious is it that this news comes out on the interview being done by the guy who hates PC gamers and calls them all pedos? I mean, he didn't say anything about it on the stream, but I bet his heart just sank when he heard that. What? No, dude! Like, the first person that I think of when I think of the argument, oh, PC gamers don't buy games, Sony needs to stop porting there, is someone like JTech. And I have been saying for the longest time, and so have other people, that PC ports help fund future games. Sony makes more money, more people get to play the games, it's a win-win. But these guys have always said, oh, Sony's chasing pennies on PC. Most of them just pirate the games anyway, why do they keep porting? And the signs were all there. Again, if you had a single brain cell, you could very easily understand why they would want to do it. But now Yoshida himself has come out and explicitly said they need the money to continue doing games. It's no wonder the PC ports of PlayStation games have been getting closer and closer to day and date, and in fact have been day and date in a lot of recent cases, like Helldivers, Horizon Remastered, and the Until Dawn remake, and I guess Concord as well, but let's be real, nothing was gonna save that game. I mean, Helldivers was arguably carried by PC. I mean, over half the game's copies were sold over here. And I remember we were talking about this on stream. By the way, you should join us on stream every Friday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. It's a ton of fun. But yeah, we were talking about this on stream about like, oh, well, when is PlayStation gonna go day and date? And I said that I think there's a good chance Wolverine could go day and date, but I'm not 100% sure. But I fully expect Spider-Man 3 to be day and date on PC. And we didn't talk about this on stream, but I am expecting Ghost of Yotei to come to PC within a year. Especially when Spider-Man 2 is coming just over a year later. And I mean, you gotta think about it this way. That was the fastest selling PlayStation Studios game of all time, and it's still coming over this quickly. Now, I'm not gonna sit here and act like it's the fault of PlayStation users or anything. You know, it's a fun little counter to people who say that PC gamers don't buy games, but PlayStation gamers, they buy and support the devs and all that stuff. But let's be real, one of the biggest issues here, and one of the biggest reasons this is happening, is because of the ridiculous budgets of games. I mean, Spider-Man Spider-Man 2 cost $300 million to make. Now, I don't doubt that a lot of that was spent on marketing and whatnot, but at the same time, if the first game only cost $100 million and the sequel has like triple the budget for basically the same length game, that is a huge skill issue on the part of the management at Sony. And the one thing I actually disagree with what Yoshida said has to do with the fact that these budgets are so massive and that games are too expensive. Here, let me play the clip, and then I'll talk about why I think his logic is flawed.
To be able to do that. So for them, if they like first party's output, like a big single player game, they should support Herman doing these porting and remasters so that he can keep investing in these great new games.
Now, I think this statement is complete bull. It should not be the job of the consumer to make up for when you can't manage a budget properly. People should not have to buy the same games repeatedly in the form of remasters of games that are a couple years old just so you can afford your next game. Like, something's gotta give on the budget side of things. I mean, didn't Cyberpunk cost $300 million? There is no universe in which Spider-Man should have cost $300 million. If you can't make back the money for your game just on the sales of the game, especially if your game is the fastest selling from one of your studios ever, that is not on the consumers, that is on you. PC ports are one thing, because obviously that's new people buying the game, but to say that fans should buy remasters of recently released games just so they can get a sequel, which will probably then have another remaster put out, just so it can get another game, is completely absurd. Like, imagine if I said that every video I put out had to hit a certain amount of watch time for me to make another video, and then the first video I put out doesn't make that watch time. So then my solution, instead of making a better video, is to re-release the exact same video, slightly change the title, and maybe put different gameplay in the background, but all the commentary and everything else is the same. Like, that's completely idiotic. Your budget's being too high for games is just a skill issue. But yeah, Yoshida seems cool, and I think the PC ports of PlayStation games are great, but saying that people should buy remasters if they want new games is just unfair. You're asking people to buy basically the same game twice. And that's after increasing the prices of games to $70. Like, something has gotta give on your end. But yeah, that's really all I wanted to talk about with that little bit of news. And now we're gonna shift into some news about how PlayStation Live service games have been going. Because I think Fritz said it in his video, but the longer this goes on, like the more live service games they try to make, the more it feels like they got lucky with Helldivers. Because you can see right here, Sony cancels 2 more live service games, including one based on God of War. Now here's the thing, people have been saying, oh, okay, well, it's good that they're not standing behind something that they know probably won't work or whatever, and I agree. But at the same time, this kind of sucks, because now all that time those studios spent working on those games was just completely wasted, and we're probably not even gonna see games from them until, like, the PS6. Like, they really should not have put all their eggs into one basket on live service. And the funny thing about it is, the one successful live service they've released, which was Helldivers, isn't even a first-party game, technically. Yeah, they own the IP, but Arrowhead isn't owned by Sony, so technically it's a second-party game. Sony are absolutely capable of delivering great live service games, but I don't know, man. Something is going on over there, it seems. It seems like they put all their money on red, but the winner was black. And now, honestly, I'm really interested to see what the future of Fair Games is going to be. Like, did any of you even remember that existed? Considering there was even, like, advertising for that game, I'm assuming it's too late for them to can it at this point, but I honestly don't see it doing well. I think the only game that we know of that's coming from them that's live service that has a chance at this point is Marathon, but that's just because it has the name behind it. Now, thankfully, neither of the studios that had their live service games canceled will not be getting shut down, which, thank God, because that would not be fair to them. At least with Firewalk, the devs of Concord, it makes more sense, because the game actually came out and bombed. But yeah, if they had shut down studios for games that hadn't even released yet and then management canceled, that would just be complete BS. But what really doesn't make sense to me is they were willing to go through with Concord, but then they canned a live service God of War game. Like, I'm no expert, but I'm pretty sure that game would have automatically been more successful than Concord. Not like that's saying much, but that game definitely would have stood a chance just with the name behind it alone. Then again, I guess they spent $400 million on Concord, so they didn't really have a choice but to release it. I don't know. Obviously, I am not a professional or anything, but canning a live service that is based on an IP that is massively successful and could probably be carried just by the name alone just seems a little weird to me. It reminds me of when we found out a couple weeks ago that Microsoft said no to a Master Chief Doom Guy collab on secret level. Like, just why?
Out of pocket for that shit. Way out of pocket. What do you gain from that?
And of course, the announcement of these games being cancelled has the PlayStation fanboys in complete denial. And I want to look at two great examples of some extreme hypocrisy. First off, our favorite koala man who used a robbery to console war, X-Fault Gaming. I'm glad the games as a service iterations are cancelled. Obviously. No one asked for them, and unfortunately they will not be successful. Marvel Rivals has succeeded so far due to the Marvel IP and Overwatch's downward spiral for years. Now, this would be a completely calm and reasonable tweet.
Are you a calm and reasonable person?
If it weren't for the fact that this is the same guy who shilled for Concord and bought 3 copies of it. Remember this tweet? 3 copies in my household already pre-ordered. Cue the insecure Xbox fanboys.
Well, well, well. How the turntables...
This man bought 3 copies of Concord and now is trying to argue that nobody wants live service PlayStation games. And the funny thing is, he talks about insecure Xbox fanboys. You already know if it got leaked that Microsoft canceled 2 live service games, this dude would be all over it, talking about what a massive L it is for Microsoft, and saying like, oh, yet another case of mismanagement from them. But no, when Sony does it, he's glad about it, even though he spent $120 on one of them. This dude is such a liar and a fake. Like, he accuses other people of grifting. He is a textbook definition grifter. But anyway, to end off this video, I want to take a look at what JTech had to say about this. Concord made Sony understand that not every game is a service title is a winner. I'm so happy that they're learning my lesson from 2024. Your lesson? That's interesting. Does anybody remember what Jay initially had to say about Concord? No? Let's take a look.
This looks fucking great. This game looked 8 times better than fucking Redfall. Oh yeah. I like this. And this shit looks amazing.
Ubisoft!
First of all, can we talk about how wild it is to use Redfall as a comparison point? Look, Redfall might be the worst game I've ever played in my life. We were tortured by it on stream. But the difference between Redfall and Concord is Redfall actually made some money, and you can still play it. But again, it's the same thing I was saying about X-Fault. You already know, if it came out that Microsoft canceled a bunch of live service games, these guys would run with that so hard, talking about how dead Xbox is, and how they can't manage anything. But when Sony has the same blunder, they're happy. They learned their lesson. Like, you cannot have it both ways. But I guess they're gonna say whatever they gotta say to make their favorite piece of plastic look better. But yeah, anyway, with all that being said, that's gonna do it for this video. I've said it before, but I'm just so happy there's actually stuff to cover again. It feels like I have been consistently complaining for the last, like, 6 months or so about, like, the lack of news. But I guess the saying is true. Good things come to those who wait. And honestly, I enjoy making these more, like, news-oriented videos that also include some fanboy stuff. Let me know if you'd like to see more of this. Obviously, I'll continue doing my regular content as well, but this is fun, and it doesn't require me to lose quite as many brain cells. So yeah, with all that being said, thank you all so much for watching. Like the video if you liked it, dislike it if you didn't like it, subscribe if you want to see more. Join us every Friday night, 9 p.m. Eastern for Salt streams, and I will catch you all next time.